So yeah, it's been 3 years since I done a podcast, and people may be wondering where I've been, and yeah, it's a bit of a long story, but yeah, just real life stuff got in the way, and uh, had to take a break, unfortunately, but decided in 2026 to bring it back, and yeah, looking forward to see how it goes. But yeah, I'm not joined alone. I'm joined by someone else from another podcast that I've just started listening to or have been listening to for quite a while. And yeah, that's Nicole from the Honest Podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to. Obviously, we talk like daily online,
Yeah.
so it's cool to do a show with you.
So yeah, we were just talking about the stuff we got up to over Christmas, and yeah, from much on my end, like I said, I just pretty much done an endurance race and binge watch the 2025 24 hours of Le Mans. So, yeah, just and a few documentaries as well. That was about it. Yeah, I'm trying to think where to start actually. Actually, real life motorsport. How did your introduction or your foray, if you like, start? Was it through family or was it just something
Yeah.
that you kind of picked up watching, say for example, on TV?
So I mean, like a little of both. My dad is a big racing fan. He absolutely introduced me to racing. Back in like 1998, uh, F1 got a full broadcast contract in the United States. So we would watch F1 races, and then always like, on a Sunday there would be IndyCar or NASCAR or something on in the background if we had family over. Like, that wasn't always a sit down and watch it kind of thing, the way that F1 was. Like, F1 for back then, like, all the races were kind of at the same time of day, which was basically for Eastern time in the US was like 7 a.m. So we would just wake up a little early, watch the race, make breakfast, like eat breakfast with my little sisters and my mom, and the race would be on. And then as I grew a little older, F1 got the US Grand Prix back in Indianapolis. And in 2002, I went to my first race. And I went from 2002 to 2007 to all the US Grand Prix in Indianapolis. Um, and really was only attending F1 races until just a couple years ago. Until 2024 was when I really started attending other races, just because it's expensive to go to top level racing events. Like, to go to an IndyCar race, to go to, a IMSA or a WEC race is not cheap. Like, it's not crazy expensive. It's not as expensive as F1, but it's still, you know, me working multiple jobs, trying to save up to buy a house, stuff like that. Just, it wasn't in the cards. And I'm in a place now in life where, like, this year I'm going to every IMSA race. I'm also going to an F1 race, a WEC race, and, two of the IMSA races also are IndyCar races. So, like, I'm out here, like, living the motorsport fan dream.
Yeah, that's yeah. I was about to say as well. I was actually just before I probably about a couple. No, this afternoon actually, I was actually looking at work because basically nothing going on at work, and I was bored out of my mind, and I thought, yeah, I'll just check up prices for IndyCar races and IMSA and uh, even like GT World Challenge America, and I was looking at the prices compared to F1, and I was like, wow, this is probably it's expensive, but it's not crazy expensive like you would have to pay to attend an F1 race these days. Like pretty much, you would have to sell. It's probably me being a bit dramatic, but you're not having to sell a kidney as such, if you
Yeah.
like. So
For the whole IMSA season, the tickets are less than the cost of a ticket in the grandstand that I sit in for the Formula One race. So that's just comparing just purely ticket prices, not taking into account travel or lodging or anything else. purely on ticket prices, it is cheaper to do the entire IMSA season than it is to do one Formula One race.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I was going to bring up quota as well, actually, but I'll bring that up in a little bit. Yeah, how many races have you? Not as that figure, but how many races do you think you've attended when it comes to, say, IndyCar and IMSA? Could I include WEC? Yeah, we could include WEC.
So, like, non F1 races, I actually haven't attended that many. I've been to the Indy 500 twice. I've been to 3 other IndyCar races. I've been to like a grand total of 4 or 5 WEC races, and then I've been to 4 or 5 IMSA races, and then 2 WEC races. So it really, and that's all since 2024. So, just 2024 and 2025, going to all those. And then actually, that's a lie. I've been to, because we have Texas Motor Speedway in, my area where I live. So when IndyCar was still racing there, it was like basically free to go. And I had friends that had an RV in the infield. So I would just go and hang out with them. But it was more of a social thing than going to, go through the autograph line and meet the drivers and, all of that. It was more I was at an IndyCar race. But, you know,
So
like I joke that the first time I watched Scott Dixon win was at Petit Le Mans in 2024, but the first time I was at a Scott Dixon win was at Texas Motor Speedway. Like, I was there, I was aware he won the race. He's obviously my favorite driver, but I was not sitting in the stands watching the race.
yeah, so you're kind of, I guess you weren't like say like some of the diehard fans, if you like, you weren't waiting in queues to get autographs or pictures or anything like that.
No, and I mean, that's the kind of stuff that I would do back when F1 was at Indianapolis. Like, they had autograph sessions, they had stuff like that, like driver meet and greets, and I would stand in the lines for those. It wasn't ever something I thought to do in other racing series. Like, for some reason in my mind, they weren't going to be accessible because of like how inaccessible Formula One is. I thought, oh, everything else is going to be the same, and like, come to find out, that's not the case at all. And that's like a huge part of what we try to do on the Orange Flag podcast is like share the fan experience with the world, because I know a lot of people do not have the ability to go to. I went to 11 races in 8 different series last year. I know that that's not something a lot of people can do. So I like sharing that with the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what I decided to do this year is try and get back into going to as many motorsport meetings as possible. But it's one of those things. Where I live in Scotland, the central Scotland, the only track that's close to me is probably like Knockhill, which is 30 minutes away.
Knockhill's awesome.
Yeah,
That is a fantastic track. You're like, oh, the only thing I have is Knockhill. Great track.
but it's a great track. I would love to try and get to more motorsport meetings, especially the European Le Mans series with it returning to Silverstone last year. I would love to get there. The only track within my mileage range, if you like, or close to me, is Knockhill. It's a good track. Don't get me wrong, but it's just most of the tracks are down in England, and yeah. It's just trying to find the time, get the time off work, and trying to find the money to try and get to other tracks. But it's if I can't do that, I'm more than happy to just sit at home and watch on TV if it comes to it. But it's like that's why I like listening to you, Austin, and Aris from over the Orange Flag podcast, because you're explaining your experience, and I like the passion that you give as well. It's just I think, in my opinion, it's something that's missed on some podcasts, which is not always a bad thing. You don't want to go over the top, but it's just it could be a little bit more excitement, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've never hidden the fact that I'm a fan. Like, I'm not a journalist. I'm not out there trying to ask, hard hitting questions and, like, figure out how to ask a question about BOP without talking about BOP. Like, when we had Kevin Estre on for the episode, like, we asked him silly things like, have you gone to Chili's yet? And
I
have
remember.
you peed in the car? Like, what's your workout routine? Like, we did not ask these, like, hard-hitting journalistic questions. We just asked fun stuff that I think a lot of drivers probably don't answer those kind of questions, and a lot of podcasts or, reporters aren't asking them. And that's kind of the, like, hole in motorsports, if you want to call it journalism, that we want to fill.
Yeah, you mentioned you mentioned Kevin Estre as well. I recommend to anyone that's not listened to the Kevin Estre episode of the Orange Flag podcast to give it a listen, because it's fascinating, but it's fascinating, funny. Just Kevin, listening to Kevin as well, he was just so laid back, and I think that's one thing I've noticed with drivers as well, when they're away from the track and they're not under any pressure, or maybe not in the, I don't know if the right mindset is a good thing to say. When they're away from the track, they're more they open and more laid back, and I think that episode with you and I'll say again, you people, or say not you people, but you know what I mean. Try to find
What
the
do you
words.
mean, you people?
I just say end me now, but you know what I mean. But I'll say you also, and I don't want to sound repetitive all the time, but just Kevin was so much fun to just listen to, and that's when he said, I couldn't hold it in. He said something. It was a lawn safety car, I think, and I think I remember watching that on TV at the time.
Yeah,
And it just, yeah, and he said something about they were on the podium with Michael Christensen as well, one of the winners from 2018. That I think what was it, either Lawrence Vanthoor or Kevin Estre, or was it had to stood between, or didn't want to stand next to Michael because of, and I'm not going to mince my word, he absolutely reeked or smelled of piss. So
yeah. I expected to get like a one-word answer to that question, because we just straight up asked him, have you ever peed in the race car? And I figured it was going to be a yes I have, no I haven't. Kevin told like a 5-minute story about winning Le Mans in GTE Pro with Lawrence Vanthoor and Michael Christensen in 2018. It was incredible. Oh, look, I've got their little selves here. Their little pink pig selves.
Talking of pink pig, I got this.
Oh yeah, you got it too. But like, yeah, that he told that whole story, and then he adds on to the end, Lawrence peed at Coda too, like this year.
Oh my god.
It's like, man, I was expecting a yes or a no, and instead the guy goes on this whole story, which was, he carried that interview so well, because we did have goofy questions, and it was like, we tried to make it a very low risk interview for him, where like he knew we were not gonna do any gotcha stuff. We weren't gonna ask him, like, I didn't even plan on talking about Le Mans or the Nürburgring from 2025, because those were obviously heartbreak races for him, and he brought them both up on his own, like, talking about his emotions during those races. Like, I had no intention of us bringing them up, and he kind of, I mean, he said he has a spotter on the show. He has somebody that lets him know, kind of, hey, they said this about you, do you want to go listen to it, sort of thing, is the way I interpreted that. So I think he at least knows what we say and what we think about him. He obviously knows I'm a fan. Like, we've made that very clear. But
Yep, I know about it, but that's what I like as well. It's Oh, my bad. I'll let you finish. That was
No,
bad of
I
me.
mean that like I like that I don't hide who I'm a fan of. I expect that anybody who listens to 3 or 4 episodes of the show should be able to know what drivers I support.
Yeah, and I was going to say as well. I mean, I know you're a massive fan of Kévin as well, or have been for I don't know how long, but a long time anyway.
Yeah.
The way I look at it, there's nothing wrong with showing passion. There's nothing wrong with being kind of like open about it. That's the way I look about it, and that's what I like it. That's what I like as well about sports car racing in general. It's basically you interact with different fans, and you get to know them and what they're like in a good way, that is. And they like basically when it comes to drivers, teams. I mean, when it comes to IndyCar, oh God, how many times I've went on about Scott Dixon. Like if he wins a race, I'm like Scott Dixon, just getting like excited about it.
Yeah.
Oh my!
I've got props for my show because I'm at my podcasting station. Yeah, you can
Oh my!
tell who I like because I've
Yeah,
got all sorts of props of them.
and I mean,
And then
uh,
yes. I actually need to remember to bring this. I have gone to so many races and just forgotten to bring this. I've got it signed by Scott. I have interacted with Seb and Ranger so many times and have not gotten this O1 Caddy thing signed.
sorry, I'm just looking for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know everyone knows. Excuse me. Everyone knows I'm a huge Aston Martin fan, and I never ever get tired of showing this because it's just kind of I kind of asked the team like Heart of Racing and TS Sport if I could get it, and something from the 24 hours of Spa back in 2023, and they're like, yeah, we could send you something. I was like, yeah, I could send like money to like pay for like say like post like delivery costs or the, and then I unexpectedly they said, give me where do you live? What's your address? And surprisingly, it always makes me grin like a little kid because like that.
Yeah, that's
And
amazing.
they're like, yeah, we can send you something. It's no problem at all because we've got stuff to give away anyway. So I was like, yes. So yeah, I'm a bit of a, and everybody knows that I'm a bit of a full time Aston Martin racing fanboy, if you like. So I'm not like yourself. I'm not ashamed to like kind of express it or show it. So yeah, can't think what else I was going to ask you. So yeah, for the latest motorsport season coming up, what's the plans for when races? Are you is it the same again? Attend loads of. I know you're attending Daytona. Are you planning to do the? Is that like is it the 36 hours of the float?
Yes,
Florida,
yeah.
yes. So Sebring, that's it.
Yep. So what I'm doing, what I have absolutely locked in right now is Daytona, Sebring, Long Beach, um, Detroit. So I have a race ticket to Laguna Seca. Um, that's a little up in the air. I probably will go to that. So we'll say Laguna Seca, Detroit, Road America, Watkins Glen. I have a work conference that may or may not be mandatory that week. And it won't be the weekend, but by the time that I'm done Friday, I would only be able to get out there for Saturday. It wouldn't be worth it if I can't get that time off. And then Petit Le Mans, and then on top of that, I'll be going to the WEC race at Coda and the Formula One race at Coda. I need to look to see if I'm going to make anything work with NASCAR this year. Usually either Coda or Texas Motor Speedway, but Texas Motor Speedway is the same week as something in IMSA. Laguna Seca, I think.
I
So
I was checking the dates this afternoon as well, and I think they both class, but
yeah,
I
I
would
think
need to.
they're like the third ish of May. So I don't I don't think I'm going to get NASCAR this year, but yeah, I mean, the going to all the IMSA races kind of started off as a joke because I told Lawrence Vanthoor and Kévin Estre both separately, like, oh yeah, if you guys are teammates together in IMSA next year, I'll go to all the races.
And
And I don't like lying to people. I don't think either of them would remember that I said that or like call me a liar for saying that and then not going, but like it's also a nice easy excuse. Like, well, I told these two drivers that I'd go watch all their races if they were teammates, so I've got to do it. Plus other things that I would normally do, I'm not able to because of various clashes. Like, I can't go to the Indy 500 because my sister's getting married that weekend.
Oh,
Super excited about my sister's wedding. Like, obviously, that was a no-brainer. And then the Nürburgring 24 Hours is like the weekend before, so trying to get over to Germany and then get back for a wedding is probably going to be a little expensive and difficult to do. Plus, Detroit is the next weekend, so trying to take like the better part of 3 full weeks off is a little tough with work.
Yeah, that's talking about going to races as well. That was my situation this year, and kind of I said it in the middle of last year, and I kind of said to myself, I really want to get to 24 hours of Le Mans, and that again, that's a race that I've talked about in the group chat that we're both part of. It's a race that I've really wanted to go to for a long time since I got into watching a endurance racing back in, I think it was about 2003, no 2002. 2003 it was. I got into watching sports car racing because the first Le Mans I watched on TV was the year that wasn't Audi. I'm trying to think who it was. It won it. It was the Bentley with the Speed 8s, I think it was, that won. I said to myself, and I watched it every year ever since, and I kind of just said to myself, last year, that it's a race I really want to get to. It's a race I don't know if addicted to is the right word, or hooked, whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And I kind of just say I said to my mother last year that I wanted to go and get or the plan was to go last year, but just the personal circumstances got in the way, and then so I just kind of just said to myself this year, I'm pulling the trigger and I'm making it over this year, and I think it's looking forward to it.
That was my original plan for 2026 was Le Mans, and for obvious reasons, I'm not prioritizing that race this year. 100% had PPM remained in the World Endurance Championship, I would have gone to probably Daytona and Petit, and that's it, and would have done Le Mans. But it just, I'll wait. Kevin and Larry will end up on other teams, and I will wait until that happens, probably next year, if I had to guess, because Le Mans is ultimately what both of them want. I do not see them staying out of the World Endurance Championship for that long. Or, if they do, it will be, moving to a team that has the ability to enter an extra car over there. So yeah, I mean, I expect that either next year or the year after, I'll be going over to Le Mans.
Yeah, talking about I don't know. I mean, you never say never. You could see maybe Lawrence and Kevin still at Le Mans.
They could do like LMP2 or something, but like I would almost be more upset if I went over there and they were in an LMP2 entry and like if they got a class win again. Like, that's not what they want. I'm sure they'd be like both of them, their Pink Pig win is still their career highlight. Like, even Lawrence has said, even since he's won Daytona, that class win at Le Mans is still his career highlight. So, I'm sure that they wouldn't be upset with an LMP2 win, but they want that overall win. And I want to be there to see them get that overall win.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say, could you see them back at Le Mans and even LNGT3 if you like, or do you think that because of the Manti lineups have already been confirmed pretty much? Do you think that's out of the question, or do you think it's the only chance they've got
So
of
that
is LMP2 as it stands?
don't know. Well, there aren't enough extra Porsche entries for them both to be in a car. So it would have to be one of them or the other. And I don't know necessarily how you pick one over the other. And I think that Porsche have enough young guys that are very quick in GT3 machinery that you might honestly want to put in that car over either of them, just for the longevity. Like, I don't think anybody expects that if ppm withdraws entirely from LMDH, so if the 963 program essentially shuts down, that Kevin and Larry are going to end up somewhere else. And I think even if it doesn't shut down, Kevin and Larry might end up somewhere else unless there's a very quick, oh, hey, in 2018, we will be in the World Endurance Championship again. And this is not, I hate that I have to do these sort of disclaimers, but people assume because Larry responds to crap we post on Twitter and Kevin has been on the show that we have like secret knowledge. This is just me pulling stuff out of thin air based on rumors that I see online and what I think makes sense. None of this is anything that either of them have told me or anybody with Porsche or Team Penske have told me. But I think that this is probably both of their last year with Porsche, which is awful because ultimately I'm a Porsche fan. Like, had Kevin Estre been a young driver at BMW or at Ferrari, I never would have become a fan of his. Like, there are other drivers that have very similar driving styles to him. Yes, his driving style is what drew me to pay attention to him. Like, he is 100% committed all the time. It's insane, but I want to see a 100% committed all the time driver in a Porsche. Like, I don't like
Yeah.
Alessandro Pierguidi. He is 100% committed all the time, but he's in a Ferrari, and I'm not a Ferrari fan. I'm a Porsche fan, so, it's one of the things I liked about Earl Bamber back in the day. Like, it will be very weird to me because I didn't follow Kevin's career pre-Porsche. Like, I wasn't following him when he was, and I know it's Porsche, but like when he was doing Carrera Cup and Super Cup and stuff, like before he was a Porsche signed driver, I hadn't paid attention to his career. I know he had a couple years with McLaren, but I wasn't watching him during that time. I wasn't paying attention to him as a driver, so, and I will say I did pay a teeny bit of attention to Lawrence before he was with Porsche, but not really. Like, I like these guys because they are Porsche drivers. I will say that if they go to another team, even if it is Ferrari, I will continue supporting them. Like, at this point, it is more than a brand affiliation. These are drivers that have gone above and beyond and out of their way to be really good people. I don't care if Kevin goes to Ferrari. I have a red hat over here that I can throw on. Like, it's a Michael Schumacher hat from 2003, but there, like, I can rock the prancing horse. Yeah, really, really old hat. Signed Michael Schumacher hat from 2002. This is actually from the first F1 race I ever went to. Because again, like, I like drivers that are crazy and aggressive, and in Michael's earlier career he was like that. It's another reason I like Fernando Alonso. I would say Scott Dixon is kind of the exception to my rule when you look at all the drivers I like and you look at their driving styles. Scott doesn't really fit that mold. Honestly, I was like probably 12 or 13 and was like, ooh, the red car. I like that car. It was the Target Chip Ganassi car. And I was drawn to that car, didn't really pay attention, and, a very childish way to pick a car you like, but it's the reason that Rexy has a giant Lego set is because people are just drawn to a livery. I was drawn to that red car, that Target livery, and became a Scott Dixon fan off of that. Because, yeah, he doesn't fit my general mold of drivers that I like.
Yeah, and with Scott Dixon, when did I first hear his name pop up? I actually heard his name pop up well before IndyCar. This is going back to, I'm sure he mentioned it on the Dale Junior Download podcast. But it's another that I recommend as well. Check it out.
Definitely.
I think, he raced at PT. It was at Road Atlanta anyway. He raced in the old not G. Could have been GTP, but yeah, this is going back a while. So he raced with Ricky Moran Racing, and I think that was the first time I heard his name in IMSA, and yeah, that's me showing my age. So yeah, I'm getting on a while. I'm getting on a while, anyways. But
I mean, we're basically the same age.
Yeah, I'm 37. Yeah, even though people say to me I only look like 25, which I take as a bit of a compliment. Yeah, Scott Dixon. I first came across him in IndyCar back in 2001 as well. I think he was racing with Park West Racing. I think it was at Nazareth as well, a track that was owned by
his crazy fuel
save run.
Yeah, that is. I didn't see that race like live. I wasn't like watching every race like I said back then. But I have gone back and watched stuff about that. Is insanity. I have a couple friends who were at that race, and I'm like, I'm just so jealous of you.
And I remember watching that as well. I was just a young kid at the time, but I was watching it at the time on TV. I think it was on. It was on a TV channel, no longer around, or still around, but under a different name, TNT Sports, or back in the day, it was called British Eurosport. So I remember watching that, and I was just thinking to myself, how long can he go before he runs out of fuel? And he was like going round and round and round, and I'm like, no, it's like no way he's going to make it. And then he got across the line, and he still had like fuel left. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like,
crazy.
Wow, what a badass. So talking about the car as well. I wanted to talk about the upcoming season as well. And do you think anyone? It's an obvious question, probably, but do you think anyone can top Alex Palou, or try and knock him off the top, if you like?
I'm interested to see what Will Power can do in Andretti machinery. Because I think that over the past couple seasons, Andretti has been very up and down in results, but that's kind of been more to the drivers than the cars. They haven't had really car issues. They've had like drivers making errors issues. I think that with someone like Will Power there, it really could be he could be a contender. I think Scott is always a contender, and Ganassi is not going to prioritize Alex over Scott. If Scott, goes out and wins the first 3 races, they're not going to sabotage Scott to make sure that Alex goes 4 in a row. I do think it's probably, if I had to guess, down to those 3 drivers. I don't think Malukas is going to be in the picture, but I think Joseph Newgarden will bounce back from last year, and I think he could be in the picture again. I think he seems like he's gotten over whatever demons he was fighting internally. Like there was a bit of a change partway through the season. Obviously he's had a new baby. Like hopefully he's just in a different place in life. And I say that as somebody who wants Joseph Newgarden to lose every race ever,
Yeah.
unless he's like, they decide to put him in car number 6 with Kévin at some point. Then I do not want him to lose every race. I want him to win if he's in a car with Kévin. But in IndyCar, I am not a Penske fan. I am not a Joseph Newgarden fan. I have never liked Joseph Newgarden. But I do think he is always in the mix. So I would say probably those 4. Which, shocker, I'm thinking champions are going to win championships. All 4 of those guys are existing IndyCar champions. Alex, Scott, Joseph, and Will all have Indy 500 wins and IndyCar championships. Shocker that I think they are the ones to watch. Super non-dramatic. I'm trying to think if I've got like a long shot, like someone that if I were, to just make a friendly handshake bet, who I would say, I think this is somebody that could win the championship.
Yeah, I think if I was to pick someone, if it was a Alonso, a dark horse, the sort of prediction, maybe not to win the championship, but to win a race this season. I think if he has a good season and he can be up at the front more regularly, and he's got a good car underneath him. Obviously, he's got a good team underneath him as well with Meyer Shank Racing. I think Marcus Armstrong.
Yeah. I think absolutely for a race win. I think that as far as dark horses for the actual championship, I think Pato O'Ward will be in the mix, and I think Kyle Kirkwood will be in the mix, but I don't think they will be bringing it down to the last race level in the mix. I think we'll see David Malukas win a race, and we'll see Santino Ferrucci win a race. Those are my 2 like semi out there predictions. I think the 2 of them are going to win races this season.
Yep, I would like to see. I know that again, me and a few other people in the group chat have talked about him as well in the past. At times last season, I probably butchered the name, and I apologise in advance. It's Kévin Simpson.
Yeah, no, Kyffin Simpson is my favorite up and coming driver. I just think that he still has some progress to make. I think if everything went exactly right, he could win a race. Like all of the outside variables fell exactly in the right place and he was on the right fuel strategy, which it's Ganassi. So being on the right fuel strategy is totally a possibility. But, if he was, I think he's going to need some luck. He is a really good driver, but I think to win a race right now, he needs a little bit of luck versus I think those other guys, it's a little less. I think that podiums are going to be a consistent thing for him this season.
Yeah,
I think he will be on the podium 3 or more times this season.
Yeah, I think he's got a good chance as well. He's had I believe it was his first season in IndyCar.
Second season.
Second
Yeah.
season. But I think with a team such as like Chip Ganassi Racing, and also you've got a veteran of the sport with Scott Dixon, probably guiding him, showing him like how to basically helping him improve. I think if Scott Dixon is kind of like in the back, not in the background, but they're kind of like guiding him, I think that'll be a big help as well. I think it'll be a confidence booster as well if he can be up there. Maybe not finishing on the podium all the time, but maybe if he can get consistent top 10 results, I think that'll be a good season for him.
Yeah, I was there at Detroit for his first career top 5, and at the time it was like, this is amazing, and then he goes out later in the season and gets a podium, and it was awesome. I I knew about him from sports cars before I knew about him from
Yeah,
IndyCar.
that's where I heard of him.
Um, like he's a ELMS champion. He's raced at Le Mans. He's going to be with Tower, which is like my favorite LMP2 team for Daytona. So,
And it,
prior to the disqualification, they won the race last year. I think that they've got a good shot at winning this year. So, him and Seb Bourdais in a car, that's a lot of
that is
very strong driving power.
yeah, especially with the experience of Seb Bourdais brings to not just Tower but also the lineup in general. Again, when it comes to like guiding and guidance thing and help, they kind of like the helping drivers improve. I think Seb Bourdais is a driver that you really, really want in your team. Yeah, he might not be as quick as he was back in his younger days. Say when he raced with Peugeot back in the old LMP1 days. He's what he's a he's someone I would if I was a team manager, I would have him on my team along with a bit of a bit of youth as well because like you say, Kévin has got experience in LMP2, and I think I first heard Kévin's name back in. Let me check my notes. I think he raced at Le Mans with Nielsen, but I can't for the life of me remember the year. So that's where I first heard his name pop up, and I thought he's definitely a star of the future. Whatever he decides to do.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I think that he has the absolute potential to be one of those multidisciplinary drivers, like to be doing a bunch of stuff. Like Kyle Kirkwood does a lot of stuff. Like he's doing a bunch of IMSA and obviously full time in IndyCar. Yeah, with Vassar Sullivan.
Yeah, Vassar Sullivan. I was going to say. I just had to check there.
Yeah. Our mutual friend Morgan is a massive Vassar Sullivan fan, so gotta shout them
saw
out.
That. So is our friend in the group chat. I hope he doesn't mind me bringing his name up, and I apologize if I butcher his second name. Is Mark Whiteleg. He's a huge Toyota fan, and he's a huge Lexus fan as well. And
yes, he is.
There's always a good chance when you go on the social media, he's always talking about them. And again, it's part of what I love about the sports car racing as well. Just different fans they've got enthusiasm for supporting different teams. But what else did I want to talk about in IndyCar? Also, I don't know. I don't know if it's worth going back and talking about, but one thing that's annoyed me in IndyCar over last season, and I know I was very, very vocal about it, was people complaining about Alex Palou dominating too much, saying, "Oh, I hope he crashes, I hope he spins."
That's inappropriate. It is inappropriate to, like, if you notice what I said about Joseph Newgarden, I want him to finish last in every race. Never wish ill upon another human being like that, because ultimately that is someone's husband, that is someone's father, that is someone's son. When you're watching them as if they're a character on the TV, this isn't Game of Thrones, and you're not saying, "Oh, I hope someone kills Joffrey someday."
Yeah,
these are real people that when you say you hope they crash, they could get seriously injured. I mean, it's not that long ago that we had drivers dying in IndyCar. It's not that long ago that we've had drivers dying in Formula One. So, I always tell people, choose your words carefully. I know you don't mean that you hope that insert driver here dies, but when you're asking for them to crash, the result of a crash could be serious injury or death. And I just think it's inappropriate of people to say that. I think that Alex Palou's dominance was insane, to like the point you started to make before I went sidetracking on
that's okay.
The inappropriateness of crashing. But yeah, I mean, I think his dominance was insane, and I think if you look at it and compare it to MotoGP, where because everyone wanted the redemption arc for Marc Marquez, they supported the fact that he was winning every race. You saw the overall sentiment online was Mark won again, this is amazing, versus Palou won again, oh my god, IndyCar is so boring. Yes, IndyCar is a spec series, but it is not a balance of performance series. So if one team figures out how to work within the specifications better, or if one driver is just better, then yes, you're going to get those results. And sometimes you end up with what you get in IndyCar this year, but in balance of performance series, you end up what you got in IMSA and IndyCar with two different teams this year. I mean, Porsche dominated IMSA and Ferrari dominated WEC. That's just the real. Obviously, some other teams won here and there, but those two teams dominated. So you've got balance of performance, but it's not working.
And then it's like Formula One as well. But you were talking about Michael Schumacher as well. People always gave him stick saying, "Oh, he's too ruthless. He's a dirty driver." But if you don't, if you not overlook it, but if you kind of like look away from that and look at the job that he done with Ferrari. What he joined Ferrari in 1996 when they were pretty much, I don't know, mediocres.
They were like a midfield team. Yeah, midfield absolutely. They were a midfield team. I saw someone bring this up about Lewis Hamilton, like, well, it took Schumacher 5 years to win with Ferrari. Like, okay, sure, it took Schumacher a while. First off, it wasn't 5 years, but it took Schumacher a little while to start winning with Ferrari, super consistently. But Schumacher was a young man. Lewis is in his 40s. He doesn't have 5 years to wait to turn the team around. Like, if we're going to try and make a comparison, let's kick him out and put Ollie Behrman in the seat, and then maybe we can make a comparison. However, Michael was already a two-time champion at that point. Yeah, he was a young man, but he was a two-time champion. It's just there is no comparison.
And the job that Michael done with Ferrari, I've always had massive respect for, and it's one of the reasons that made me a fan of him, because he didn't. I guess you could say he was in a good car. He done the same with Benetton when he joined them. They were kind of, again, they were midfield if you like, sorry. And he joined them and he took them, turned them into a winning team, and then I think it was a video on YouTube, or it was a video on YouTube I watched. He turned around and said, "I don't want to jump into a quick car and just win races at the click of a finger. I want to build a team up." And I think he said that's what they appealed to him joining Ferrari, because he wanted to take Ferrari from kind of like rebuild them from the ground up, if you like, and turn them around. And he managed to do that in 19. He won a few races in 96. The best race for me that I remember watching in 96, kind of like highlights, was Barcelona 1996, and when it was absolutely pouring down with rain and just and a dog of a car as well. But let's not be about the bush. A dog of a car, and he actually took that from, I can't remember where he started on the grid. He took that right to the front and pretty much went on and dominated. I think that kind of like proved his talent, how he could drag a good result out of an average car. In 1997, he took Ferrari to. He could have won the championship, and then unfortunately he got disqualified because of one of his antics, because he tried to take out the Jacques Villeneuve. I kind of get what he was trying to do, but he just went about it the wrong way. And yeah, unfortunately, bit him in the butt badly and got disqualified. I think what he done with Ferrari, pretty much what he done with Ferrari after winning the championship in 2000, and it kind of gave him an extra motivation to just carry on winning all the time. And I think that's why I became a fan of him. Not
Yeah.
not a Ferrari fan as such, but just the way he went about
exactly.
the way he went about working with the team, and just the stories I've heard about him, and the from what I heard, from what I watched on his film on Netflix, the film called Schumacher, which I recommend checking out to anyone if they've not watched
absolutely check that out.
it. And just always been a fan of him, and it was unfortunately what happened to him with his accident. Yeah, I hope that he's okay, and kind of I remember hearing what happened to him, and it kind of just thinking about it. I probably sound like a big baby, but it kind of makes me emotional at times thinking about just thinking about him. And on the plus side, it's good to see that he's got families doing racing as well, with his son Mick racing at the moment, and actually, come to think of it, Mick Schumacher is been signed to race, or has signed to race with the Rahal Letterman Lanigan this season.
Yep, yeah, for IndyCar. That's going to be really interesting. I think he'll struggle on ovals, but I think he will be quick on the road and street courses. You know, that's kind of what you've seen with the guys from the Formula Ladder, or former F1 drivers. And then, on top of that, it's not just him coming directly from Formula One. He obviously had his stint with Alpine in WEC. So he's got a very diverse motorsport background, and I think adding IndyCar to it is great. It's exciting to see.
I've lost the last subject of IndyCar, and then I'll probably switch it over to, what did I put down? Switch it over to we'll switch over to WEC after that. Yeah, do you think, thinking about Nolan Siegel, I was thinking about kind of just last season, and with being with the McLaren team in IndyCar, I don't know how. It's hard to describe his season, or sum up his season. What's your view on him and how his season went?
He underperformed. I mean, no doubt whatsoever. He was in top machinery and underperformed. You can compare him to Kiffin Simpson, who is, a newer driver, a younger guy, has very skilled race-winning teammates, and Kiffin was still getting consistent top tens. Kiffin got podium. Kiffin got, multiple top fives. Nolan didn't. Where I think Nolan is going to end up after this season, he'll finish this season out in IndyCar with McLaren, and then he will be one of their drivers for their hypercar program. He is a great sports car driver. He has a class win at Le Mans. You can't take that away from him. He will be on the McLaren hypercar team. I would guarantee that.
Yeah, and they talk about Le Mans as well. Actually, I was just looking at the results. I need to bring it back up. Was it 20? Yeah, let me check. 2024, I think he won in class with United Autosports, but I'm just checking to see who he won that. One of the drivers was the other driver was Ollie Jarvis, and I think the other driver, I'm terrible for remembering results. Yeah, bear with me.
But yeah, I'm awful at remembering who was in what lineup. Like, I'll know, so-and-so won this, but I won't remember who his teammates are.
So the drivers the driver he won, that Nolan Siegel won the Le Mans with back in 2024 in LMP2 is it B-Joy Guard,
yep.
I can't say that name.
Yeah.
Ollie Jarvis, and Ollie Jarvis is pretty much one of my favourite drivers as well. I've been a fan of him since he raced in the British GT Championship with the Audi Sport, and especially the LMP1 days. So yeah, I agree with you. I could see Nolan being one of the drivers for the hypercar program with McLaren, but yeah, the hypercar program, that's pretty much one of the topics I wanted to discuss with WEC as well. But looking ahead to WEC as well, with the looking at last season and this season as well. First off, we'll start with Le Mans, and Yeah, I think you know where I'm going to go with it as well. What do you think the highlight of that race was?
I mean, you know what I think the highlight of the race was. Kevin's start in that race is some of
Yep.
the finest driving I have seen in any series in the 20 plus years that I've been watching. And that's not just because he's one of my favorite drivers, because he's a friend of my show. That was incredible what he did. Um, I think it is unfortunate that Ferrari just has that circuit figured out. You know,
Yeah.
they would need to be running around that track at 1069 kilos to make it a competitive race. At the 499p is designed for one thing and one thing only, and that is winning the 24 hours of anything else that it does is just off of circumstance. But that car was designed to win the 24 hours of Le Mans, and it has done it every year it has been fielded. So, and we said it actually just this week on the Orange Flag podcast, was that if that does not end, if that LMH dominance does not end, I would venture to say this year, but if not this year, next year. And if it's next year, it better be a full LMDH podium. I think you're going to see LMDH manufacturers starting to pull out, and not like
Yep.
Porsche obviously pulled out for financial reasons, but for sporting reasons, you might start seeing LMDH manufacturers pull out, because IMSA is obviously an LMDH dominant series, and therefore the BOP is able to be better applied. You're only accounting for the Aston Martin, the one Aston Martin in the series, as opposed to a multitude of LMH and LMDH cars in WEC. I understand that when you have that many different cars in a semi-spec series with balance of performance, it makes getting results or pace convergence very difficult. And I know, like, nobody wants to talk about BOP because it's a difficult and it's a taboo subject, but if you step back and you actually look at it,
Yeah.
objectively, and not BOP good when my team wins. PPM didn't have great BOP for Coda, but because of the circumstances with the rain and everything, and Kevin being the crazy driver that he
Yeah.
is, they were able to win that race. But then you have races like, I won't even say necessarily that Qatar was give me to Ferrari, but I will say that I think Imola was. I think that Spa was a little bit competitive. Um, Bahrain, I think that they said, you know what, we gotta, first off, Toyota is just strong at Bahrain. But I think they literally were like, we're gonna give one to Toyota, because they were nowhere the whole season,
Yep.
struggling to make it into hyperpole a lot, and then all of a sudden have so much pace. And I understand it's one of their better tracks, if not their best track. And it really felt like picking winners and losers rather than trying to actually adjust for who is faster and who is, less fast. There was no reason for PPM to be as off the pace as they were in the first couple races. Obviously, it eventually got adjusted, but there's no reason for cars to ever be that far off the pace. Ferrari at Brazil, there was no reason for them to be that far off the pace
Yeah.
as they were at Sao Paulo. And that's kind of my issue with BOP, is like, if it's like, oh man, like they were in it, like with Le Mans, PPM had a chance. Like, they had a chance to win that race. Ferrari was just a tiny bit better. And yeah, some of that might come down to BOP. the 963 is notoriously not great at straight line speed. So being a little bit heavier definitely hurts them on that. But it felt like a race that multiple cars could win. Fuji obviously was the race that everybody holds up as, hey, it worked. Toyota could have won if the safety car hadn't come out when it did. You
And
know,
also,
Porsche could have won. Ferrari maybe could have won. Like, it really felt like a Peugeot, it seemed like, could have won. You know, any team could have won at Fuji, and that's really what we should be seeing in a balanced performance series.
yeah, and talking about Fuji as well, babe, I think I thought I don't know if you agree or not, but I thought that Fuji for me was probably one of the best races of the season because when you look at the not Valkyrie, when you look at the hypercar class as well, I just think in general as well, every car, like you say, like every car in that class at some point in that race had a chance of doing well. I mean, crikey, even both Aston Martin Valkyries were
Yeah.
doing well at one point as well until Tom Gamble.
Yeah, that crash. Ugh.
Yeah, Tom, you just about took out my heart of racing LMG GT3 car. So what's I? But yeah, again, it was not on purpose, of course. It was just one of those moments on cold tires and
Right.
just kind of just trying to push too much. But going back to my point as well, it was nice to see like every car in that class being up there at some point, say during the race, and I think that's what the BOP should be like for like the whole season, not just like chopping and changing like every race, like basically saying like, oh, we'll help this car be up at the front and then this car up at the front, and it should be. I think it should be basically once you've got it kind of to a point where every car's got a chance of doing well. I think once it's like that, you shouldn't mess with the BOP, but maybe
Yeah.
that's just me being
Minor track specific
yeah.
adjustments. Like, okay, Fuji, for instance, longest straight, like, full on straight in the series. Probably need to lighten a couple of the cars that are not great at straight line speed to allow it to be competitive. But yeah, I mean, I think that they should have it relatively figured out 2 or 3 races into the season. And the problem is that 2 or 3 races so you figure it out after Spa, and then you go to Le Mans, which is its own thing, and then coming off Le Mans, it's like, okay, but did we really figure it out? Because then people start thinking, like, I know Le Mans is supposed to be its own thing, but when they're coming up with the BOP numbers, do they take Le Mans into account subconsciously? Because it's
Yeah,
not automated. Somebody sits there and figures these numbers out. And I know this is tending towards conspiracy theories, but like, I do know that the Le Mans numbers are completely simulation based. They are not based on previous results. They're not based on anything. They're based solely on what it appears the car's performance should be, as opposed to looking at results from previous races. Like, the issue with looking at results from previous races is it kind of doesn't take into account track differences. It
yeah.
almost feels like it should be the way they do it for Le Mans for the whole season.
That's one thing that annoys me of the Le Mans as well. It's something I've really tried to keep my mouth shut about, bite my tongue, expressing you want to, or analogy, what description you want to say. Really annoys me when it comes to Le Mans, and it's like it gets to race morning, it's like, oh, we'll make a BOP adjustment on race day. I'm like, oh my god, it's just
Yeah.
it really because it happened back at Le Mans back in I can't remember what year it was where I think it was the first year of the Ford GT program where they turned up to Le Mans with 4 cars, and I think Richard Westbrook was being interviewed, and he was asked, "Oh, is this the pace and testing that the team is showing, or are you actually sandbagging?" And Richard Westbrook said, "Oh, we're not sandbagging." And then come to qualifying, they come out and qualify something like three or 4 seconds quicker than everyone else. It's like
Yeah.
it's And I wish it was. I know they try and kind of stamp out sandbagging, but it's one of those things you can't really.
You can't.
You can't really regulate it. They clamp. Well, you can kind of clamp down if you like, but there's no way of policing it, and there's always going to be ways around it. And yeah, it's just one of those things. So then look at LMGT GT3 as well. Do you think that was a good season as well? Do you think the BOP worked for that class for most of the season, or again, do you think it was a bit hit and miss?
I think that when you have the same team win Le Mans and the title 2 years in a row, something's wrong, even when it's the team I support. Obviously, Porsche fan, Manthey Racing fan. When you have Manthey winning Le Mans and winning the title in 2024 and 2025, I think there are some BOP issues. Now, yes, it came down to the final race. It could have gone the other way, but they really did come into Bahrain with a relatively comfortable margin. It's the same way that Ferrari could have lost both titles coming into Bahrain, but it would have been like on a almost DNF level of issue. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those. I like the results, so I.
Yeah.
But no, the BOP it's the same as with IMSA last year. Like the BOP was messed up. It needed to have that midseason correction that they did at Detroit. Even though my team had swept all the races, like I was very happy with the sweeping of all the races, but you need if BOP's purpose is to create a convergence of lap times among the different cars, you need BOP to be creating a convergence of lap times among the different cars, which just isn't what's happening. You are not seeing first through 10th separated by 0.1 seconds of lap time. You are seeing that difference, and I wouldn't have an issue if it just played out that way through strategy or something, that whatever car won multiple races or won multiple years in a row because maybe they executed better. Maybe they, like, not to bring Le Mans up again, but like, when's the last time that you've seen the car that spent the least amount of time in the pits not win?
Oh, that's a tough question.
I
That's a
can't
long
think
time
of
ago.
when
Yeah.
it was. And the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport car spent the least amount of time in the pits and did not win the race. They were operationally excellent at Le Mans and did not win, and that just comes down to the Ferrari was faster. There was nothing they could do. They did everything they could do. And it's like it hurts that they didn't win. I wish they had won, but you can understand it when they did everything they could do and another car just was faster. The issue is when it's not that other cars are artificially faster. Joda at again going back to hypercar, but like Joda at Sao Paulo, they were artificially faster than everybody else. I do think LMGT3 was better than hypercar as far as BOP and as far as like kind of competitiveness. I think a lot of that comes down to it being a pro-am class. Um, because you have drivers that are just by nature slower. Your bronze guys, your silver guys are going to be by nature slower. So that is going to alter. It's a lot harder to create that lap time convergence when you have such a disparity in driver skill level and pace level. Like, ultimately, every single hypercar driver can probably, in perfect conditions, with a car that is perfectly tuned, turn just about the same lap time around any track. That is not true of every LMGT3 driver. your platinum guys are going to be faster than your bronze guys. That's just the reality of the situation. So I think BOP is also harder to implement in LMGT3.
Yeah, I was thinking about LMGT3 as well, and there was so many feel good stories. I think that's how I would sum it up anyway in LMGT3. Feel good stories. You had the Eduardo Barrichello racing with
Yeah,
Spirit,
that was such
Spirit
a
of
feel
Le Mans.
good story at Sao Paulo. Yeah.
Seeing him finish on the podium in front of like the Brazilian crowd, with him being a Brazilian as
Mm-hmm.
well. Obviously, me being an Aston Martin fan, it was good to see them finish on the podium. But it's I think it was just a story of like there was so many good things that happened that it was hard for me to sum up. And also, yeah, Manthey won at Le Mans, but I was happy to see Manthey win with the 92, because I've always had a lot of respect for Manthey as a team. The way they go about things, they run teams, especially in the NLS series, just the preparation they put into running a program as well. And I think seeing them win at Le Mans was winning at Le Mans for the second year in a row. I think because the one with the 91 car last year, I think, with Yasser Shaheen, Richard
Yes.
Leach, and a driver that I've started being impressed with, or have always been impressed with, and had a lot of respect for, and has a big future, is Maurice Sharon.
Yeah. Morris just announced today that he is going to be in the GT World Challenge car.
Yep, and yep, if
Yeah,
who was
with Boccolacci and Picariello. So that's going to be interesting. I actually, prior to today, I expected him to have taken over Guven's car in DTM, because Guven obviously announced he will not be doing DTM this year. So now I'm looking to what other fast GT drivers who might be interested in doing DTM does Porsche have? Because like Thomas Preining's returning in his car, and then
yeah,
like who doesn't have a program? So big name drivers without a program. Michelle Gadding, I don't think it's going to be her. Michael Christensen, I don't think it's going to be him. Matt Campbell, he's, obviously only doing the 3 longest races in IMSA with PPM. And Lauren Heinrich, again, only doing the 3 longest races in IMSA with PPM. Those are the only, full season, quote unquote, announced. Like, obviously, Lauren Heinrich does a ton of stuff. Who knows what he'll end up doing. I don't know that I think Matt Campbell would do DTM. I could see Lauren Heinrich doing DTM. I could see him being in that second Grello.
yeah, me too. I mean, Lon Heinrich, he's a name that's been. Actually, he's a name I first started watching, not through like real life racing. He's a name I actually came across on.
Figured for his
yeah,
sim stuff.
iRacing. Yep.
Yep.
I came across his name on iRacing, and I just and then I first came across him in real life racing when he was racing in Porsche Carrera Cup Deutschland, I think it was.
Yeah.
And then I just had that feeling he was going to be one to watch for the future. I'm glad to see he's proving me right, because he's still a young driver. I think I was glad to see him get a shot at the 8 hours of Bahrain racing one of the Porsche Penske 963s, because I think for the work he puts in, and the effort he puts in as well, I think it was more than he deserved. It was only one race, but I think for what I watched, watching his pace as well on the lifetime, and he, for his first race as well, he absolutely impressed me. And I think, and I'm good. I'm glad to see him getting a chance in IMSA as well, even if it's just an endurance driver role. I'm glad to see him getting a chance.
Feeling he was not slated to just be an endurance driver, because there is no way that this time last year Kevin Estre was planning on doing full season IMSA. Pre-Daytona last year, 2025. If you had asked Kevin what his full-time program would be for 2026, he'd say, of course. Like, there was no thought that the WEC program would be shut down. So I think that, I know there are people that do not like the fact that Kevin and Lawrence basically came in and took people's seats, but I'm sorry, they are two of the best sports car drivers on the planet. They are
I
two
agree.
of the best prototype drivers on the planet. If you have an opportunity to keep them together and put them in a car, you take it. And I think that goes back to why, personally, I think there are enough teams on the grid that are able to boot out 2 drivers for next year, for 2027. I think if they want to, Kevin and Larry can stay together at a different brand.
And
I think Kevin's in a write your own I think he picks up the phone and calls any team and they kick someone out for him.
mm-hmm.
I don't know that I think that Lawrence is quite in that position, but I do think that together as a package deal, I think they are together as a package deal. The Larvin deal is absolutely something any team would make room for.
Yeah, and I think now you mentioned that, I was thinking about that earlier today as well. I was just thinking about reading the IMSA lineups as well for both cars. And I feel sorry for
uneven.
Yeah, I feel sorry for Matt in a way, because obviously last season he was one of the full time drivers in IMSA from what I remember, and he was a champion as well. Yeah, and I kind of, on the one hand, I'm glad to see it. Kevin and Lawrence are being kept together as a pair, but on the other hand, it's hard to explain. I mean, I've got nothing against both Kevin and Lawrence. Great drivers, respect them a lot. But yeah, I
put Matt with Nasser. If it was me,
yeah, I remember you saying that.
I would have put Matt with Nasser. I would have had, if it were me making the lineups, and assuming that the problem is that I think that there's some contractual stuff that comes into play where some of these drivers have it in their contract that if there is a full season 963 seat available, they will have it. But if you took that completely out of it and you took all of PPM's drivers from last year and, were able to move them around, I would still put Kevin and Lawrence together, but I think I would have put Ann Lauer with them for their endurance driver. And I would have put Felipe and Matt together, and I would have put Lauren with them as their endurance driver. I'm just kind of looking at driving styles. I'm kind of looking at experience levels. Matt and Felipe are both Daytona winners, are both IMSA champions. Kevin and Lawrence are, very, very experienced on the WEC side, champions over there, have done less. And Lawrence has obviously done more than Kevin in IMSA, but I'm just talking about like on the 963 level. And then, you take Julian, I actually would just literally put Julian with Kevin and Lawrence because they all speak French. And I think that would be good for car chemistry. Because when it comes down to the little things, like you're taking a young kid and putting him with champions, I think something little like they all speak French is good for car chemistry.
Yeah, I was going to say it probably makes if they want to if they want to communicate about something wrong with the car, or they want to make a setup change, go into detail, then I guess having like drivers that speak the same language paired together, it makes communication easier, because they're not having to maybe guess what someone else is
or stumble over words, or like, I mean, all of them. I've obviously spoken relatively extensively with all of these guys. All of their English is fantastic, but I think that there is some ease of being able to speak your native language with your teammates. And then I just think that it feels like Matt, like, Matt obviously won Daytona with Felipe, so they work well together. You know, he won the championship. Like, he technically didn't, but car number 7 did in 2024, won the championship, and Matt was the endurance driver in that car. So I think that they obviously work well together, right? And Lauren being new, that's where I would put him. I would prefer, and this is how you know I don't make my driver lineup decisions emotionally. Obviously, Lauren Heinrich being one of my favorite drivers, I'd love for him to be in a car with Kévin, but it makes less sense. So, like, I sit around and think about imaginary lineups all the time. Full disclosure, one of the reasons I want Lauren Heinrich in the second Grello in DTM is because then, in all likelihood, it will be Kévin, Thomas, and Lauren for the Nürburgring 24 Hours.
Yeah.
And that's about as great of a lineup as I can think of.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it came to talking of the Nürburgring 24, if it was a lineup, I was in charge of, I would probably go for a bit of a mix up. I'd probably go for Kevin Estre or Estre. I can never get that second name right. So Lawrence Vanthoor, definitely add him. Thomas Prinen, yep, definitely. And
that would be a good lineup. Kévin, Larry, and Thomas. That would be an insanely good lineup. As long as Lawrence keeps it out of the wall.
Yeah, I said if Lawrence ever listens to this, let's say he probably would, but been in the car last year.
You know, if we tweet the link out and we say we talked about Lawrence Vanthoor, he'll listen.
Oh, if you do that, I will definitely be a fan for life. But Lawrence Vanthoor, Thomas Bryan, I would definitely add them. And if it was a Ford driver lineup, for a car being run by Manthey, the last driver I would add in, and I don't know if people would agree with me or not, but it might just be because I'm a bit of a fan of him. I would add or Aston Martin fan, I should say, as well, as Matteo Drudi.
He is a good driver. I don't think that there is a shot in hell he would be seen in the Grello.
It's just me having a silly thought, but
no, he is a heck of a driver.
But we're kind of moved over to IMSA already, but I'll stay on that topic and look at a GTD Pro and GTD. Again, did you think the season in both classes was good, and what do you think? Looking ahead to the new season as well, what do you expect? Obviously, we've had loads of changes with driver lineups as well, but especially some drivers moving to other teams or moving away. Yeah, how do you think the new looking ahead to the new season? Do you think it's shaping up to be another exciting one?
I think that just because of the way GTD and GTD Pro run in IMSA, they will always be exciting. I think that Porsche got screwed with BOP. The 911 got screwed with BOP this year, but also they weren't running an Evo car. They do have an Evo for this year, completely redesigned 911, so that'll be interesting. The lineup that I am really watching is, and I think they are going to look like father and a son walking around the paddock, is Nick Tandy and Harry King. Like, they are going to look so mismatched because, like, Harry looks like he's 17 years old. I know he is older than that, but Harry King looks like a very young man, and Nick looks his age. Nick looks like a guy in his 40s. Nothing wrong with that, but it is going to look like a father and son walking around the paddock with the two of them as teammates. And I'm very excited for that lineup. I'm sure that, you know, having for the two full-time drivers, having an all British lineup is exciting. I'm sure a lot of British fans are paying a little bit more attention to Rexy than, maybe they were with the, little Mad Libs lineup that they had in 2024 or the very Germanic lineup that they had last year.
Oh yeah, with was it?
Klaus
yeah,
and Lauren were great. They, they're German and Austrian. Lauren's German, Klaus is Austrian, and they are very that kind of person. Like when you think of how a German or an Austrian acts, and they're funny when you get them talking, but they're very, serious people, and I think that that's going to be very different. And I actually think that, Lauren, if you somehow hear this, I'm sorry. Still a big fan of yours, buddy. I think that Nick and Harry will meet the vibes of Rexy and of AO Racing better than the previous drivers did. Like, Nick Tandy is one of the goofiest people. Like, he is always, like, in his own world, goofing off, doing, like, and then Harry is obviously very serious on the racetrack, but he is young, he is goofy, like, his interviews are always funny. So I do think that they will meet the vibes of AO Racing very well. I think they will be great stewards for Rexy and for what AO means at the racetrack.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I was surprised when I saw that Nick and Harry were confirmed for AO Racing. But I think, again, one hand, I'm happy to see that Nick's part of that lineup because he's got loads of experience racing experience when it comes to racing GT cars and Porsches as well. And I think that's a good fun thing to have as well. And also, obviously with Harry as well, still being a young driver, he's a young driver. He's definitely got the speed as loads of people have seen when he raced in. I can't remember. I think he raced in Porsche Carrera Cup GB. I think he raced in some races in, is it Porsche Carrera Cup North America? I think he done some races in. I'm not 100% sure, so
yeah,
I could be wrong.
And then last year he was driving for Verstappen's team for a bit.
Yeah, Verstappen Racing. I forgot about that.
Yep.
And he won the 24 Hours of Le Mans with Verstappen Racing in the Gold Cup class with the. Was Chris Law part of the lineup? I can't remember. He won with Terry Vermeulen was part of the lineup. I know that.
Yeah, so I mean, like, he is a very good driver. Glad to see him back with Porsche because he's somebody that I thought was going to be, treated in a Lauren Heinrich kind of way, but it never really panned out. But now he is, again, with my Porsche conspiracy theories. I think that just about every works driver for this year will not be a works driver next year. So, like, it is my, like, absolute true belief that Nasser is leaving, Estre's leaving, Vanthoor's leaving, Campbell's leaving. I think Anlauer and Heinrich will be it that are left over from the 963 program. Just because I think that those other guys have career aspirations that they don't want to be held back by a brand that is unsure of their future in this sport. Where there are brands like Ford, like McLaren, like Genesis that are going to need more drivers. Genesis is expanding into IMSA, so they will need more drivers. Ford and McLaren are launching hypercar teams. They will need drivers. And then there's always teams that just are going to need drivers. At some point, Mike Conway is going to retire. At some point, Kamui Kobayashi is going to go full-time into management. Now, yes, you can say that Ben Barnicoat and Esteban Masson should get those seats. I prefer to say Kevin Estre and Lawrence Vanthoor should get those seats.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I mean, obviously, again, there's been discussions, friendly discussions, of course, in the group chat about it, and I mean, there was loads of drivers in LP2 last year that I watched in the European Le Mans series, Le Mans, and there's some that I think it should maybe not get a shot in hypercar straight away, but one of the drivers that I think will get a shot, and I do hope he does get a shot in hypercar, especially with Toyota, Esteban Masson, because he was
Yes.
up his pace at Le Mans last year. I wasn't there watching in person, just like looking back at his lap times and pace. His pace was absolutely phenomenal.
No, he is very good. I think Brendan Hartley is closer to the end of his career than, the beginning, obviously. And so you've got as many as 3 drivers at Toyota that next year, the year after, could be leaving. That gives you a lot of leeway with lineups. There's also the reality that, like, Kévin isn't young. We're saying, oh, Mike Conway's so old, he's got to retire soon. He's only a few years older than Kévin. Kevin's going to turn 38 this year. I think Mike's going to turn 42. They're really not that far apart in age. So, yes, like, I still think you pick Kévin over anybody else. And that, like, I do mean that objectively. I mean it subjectively too, because I would like to see my favorite driver win Le Mans finally. Like, but it purely objectively, if you get the choice to pick up Kévin Estre and put him on your hypercar team, you're going to take that opportunity. So if he calls Kamui up and says, "Hey, I would like to drive for you next year," Kamui's signing those papers the next day.
I was going to say he's obviously, as bad as it sounds, or as bad as it sounds, he's obviously going to have to maybe turn around and say to one of his drivers, unfortunately, we're going to have to replace you. But I think, honestly, if Mike Conway does retire, maybe not at the end of this season, but maybe within the next couple of years, I think, obviously, Kévin Estre is one of the people I would absolutely put in one of the seats. But on the other hand, I would kind of feel bad if that did happen, because obviously Toyota, they're famous for growing in-house talent,
right,
and bringing them
talent
through the ranks as well. So it's one of those. It's one of those. It's not a decision I would like to be in charge of anyway. Put it that way.
Oh, and I mean, Toyota does have the benefit of, if Kamui really wants somebody to have a seat, he can step aside. He doesn't need to fire a driver. He can say, I'm going into management. I really want to make sure that Esteban Masson has a seat next year. Brendan and Mike both retired, so we're putting Kévin and Larry in those seats, but I really want to make sure Esteban has a seat. I'm going to go into management only role. That's something that no other team has,
Yeah, and we were talking about it. Although it could happen, but it's just a rumor at the moment. Kévin and Larry could join Toyota. I mean, never say never. And
yeah,
I mean, I think if both of them did join Toyota at the same time, I think that would be a major sweep for them as well. I mean, for their experience of winning at Le Mans, not in the top flight, but they've got experience of winning at Le Mans and racing in hypercar, and I think their experience and feedback as well could be invaluable. So I think, me personally, I hope that does happen, and I hope that they do join Toyota, and yeah, continue on the IMSA trend as well. And yeah, there was an article I read during the week, and I think, I actually read it again today, and it just annoyed me so much. Is this silly rule that IMSA brought in, saying that drivers or teams cannot complain about BOP to the media when being interviewed? Yeah, I'm not a fan. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. It just feels too Formula One ish, if you like. That's my opinion anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it, but at the same time, BOP wasn't really talked about in IMSA as much as it was in WEC. Like, during this rule set. Like, BOP and IMSA has not really been a conversation to the extent it has been in WEC because it's a lot more drastic in WEC. So, it just, yeah, it is going to make little changes, but it's little changes to the way things are run, as opposed to in WEC, you've got drivers and teams trying to figure out how they're going to talk about BOP without talking about BOP.
Yeah,
Like, I don't think that that's going to be as prevalent or as much of a concern in IMSA, with the exception of Car 6, because I've heard from people I know in the media that Kévin, like, forgets he's not allowed to talk about BOP and talks about it. And Larry, obviously, like, it doesn't talk about BOP on
but
Twitter, but
yeah,
talks about how he can't talk about BOP. Like, the BOP table dropping and Lawrence Vanthoor commenting on Twitter with a zipping
with
your
it,
mouth shut emoji
yeah,
says just as much as making an actual statement. And you can't penalize him for posting a zipping his mouth shut emoji because that's just him saying, no comment. I can't say anything. So,
yeah,
I think that will continue on. I do know that that applies to every member of every team. It is not just drivers and like team managers, it is everybody at every level. So nobody that works for a team is allowed to comment on BOP.
yeah. I've on the other hand as well, I have my opinion there as well. Though I think that's kind of a bad thing. You're kind of restrict restraining drivers or kind of restricting them from kind of if they've got concerns about BOP, you're kind of they probably won't, but I sense anyway. Maybe some drivers or teams might have a bit of hesitation to go and speak to IMSA if they've got concerns about the BOP at some point during the season, and say like, "Oh, I don't think this is right," or "I think you should look into it." Otherwise, they might think, "Oh, they might turn around and maybe slap a fine on us, or for example, or they give us a penalty for say a future race." On the other hand, I can see where IMSA's coming from. They want to protect the series in a way, protect their name and protect the brand, and kind of stop the drivers or teams from maybe kind of like talking badly, if you like. So I can see both sides of it in a way, but for me personally, it's not something that I'm a fan of. I've always been a fan of you should say it how it is, within reason, of course.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, I think IMSA is starting to lose some of the Americanness of the series. Like, with the new driving standards that they implemented after Road America
Oh God,
this last year, it took away a lot of the, quote unquote, argy bargy
yep.
that is IMSA racing, that is American style racing. You talk to drivers that came up through, the levels in Europe and then come and race in America for the first time, and they say it's a breath of fresh air, how free you are to race, how, yeah, the full course yellows and stuff are a little annoying, but when you have green flag racing, it is the best racing you will find on the planet because the driving standards are less. And so between that and now, like, I assume the reason they don't want them talking about BOP is because BOP is going to be controversial this year.
Mm-hmm.
So if BOP is going to be controversial like it was in WEC last year, again, like, you're taking what is a great series with some uniqueness to it. And I said it on Twitter the other day. You may as well just call this a bunch of extra WEC rounds.
Mm-hmm.
If the driving standards and the rules and everything are going to be exactly the same as WEC, it's not a different series anymore. You know, it is just more WEC rounds in the U.S. with a couple different cars.
Yeah, and Yeah, I'm interested to see how that new rule about not being able to talk about it pans out, but I don't think it's going to stop anyone talking about it. Maybe not to the media, but maybe behind the scenes. The if
Oh yeah, I mean
behind the scenes
in
you
WEC it
can't really
gets
stop
talked
it.
about behind the scenes too. It's not that they can't talk about it, it's that they can't make public statements in the
Yeah,
media. So the statements get made and the media know that they can't publish it, and they'll, gently remind a driver, hey, you probably shouldn't be saying that, and don't worry, I'm not going to publish that you said that. They can't go on an interview and say, this sucked because BOP was awful. So it's always going to get talked about behind the scenes, and it's restricting the average fan from knowing what the teams think about BOP because it is restricted.
yeah. I mean, I BLP discussions. I know pretty much everyone, even in the group chat, knows that when it comes to BLP, I'm like, no,
Yep.
keep me out of it. But
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
surprised you brought it up and wanted to talk about it,
yeah,
honestly, because you normally are very non-opinionated on BOP, as opposed to like me. I have lots of opinions on
mm,
BOP, and I talk about BOP all the time
it's,
because, I do think it is one of the things that makes sports car racing special is that, balance of performance exists, but I also think that if it's not implemented right, it's bad.
yeah, and yeah, the BLP. It's. I mean, I've got nothing against people talking about it. It's more. I've always wanted to get involved in a BLP discussion, but it's more just having that. Yeah, just having that kind of like basically not wanting to get into an argument or something if
Yeah.
someone doesn't disagree with me. It's like, oh, you're talking you know what, and
Yep.
that's why I kind of like just kind of like stand back and watch. But yeah, I respect that people, as long as it's a friendly discussion, I've got no issues with it. But if it turns into a kind of like a bitching match, if you like, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, just keep me out of it.
Which it certainly did in the big WEC chat several times
Yeah,
last season.
I remember that. I remember reading that at the time at times during the season, and everyone was going on about it, and I'm like, I think some people sending me a message like kind of like by DM asking like, oh, why are you not getting involved? And I'm like, look, I don't want to get involved. I just want to watch the race and just just enjoy it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Also, looking ahead to Daytona as well. I know obviously you're going to Daytona as well
Yes.
what's I as well. Who do you think who do you think are going to be the teams to watch out for in each class? I mean, obviously GTP, you've got Meyershank Racing, you've got like Porsche Penske, uh, Heart of Racing. I don't think personally, I say it as a fan as well of Heart of Racing. I don't think they'll be up there, but I think it'll just be a case of similar to Le Mans, I guess. If they can finish that race and
If
get
they finish, it'll
if
be
the
great
yeah
for
exactly
sure. So the BOP table did come out. Acura's pretty heavy. They
yeah I'm
were
surprised by
my
that.
pre BOP prediction. Kind of like sneak peek for what I'm going to talk about on my show next week, but overall the cars are significantly lighter this year than they were last year. Um but you know, Acura is still pretty significantly heavier. They're,
Mm-hmm.
6 kilos heavier than the 963. They're 8 kilos heavier than the Cadillac. And there is some kilos, a few 4 kilos heavier than the BMW. Really bad at math. Wasn't expecting. But, like looking at everything overall and comparing it to last year's BOP, they've changed how they do the table, so it's a little difficult because they're showing maximum power different. It's a percentage, not an actual power
Mm-hmm.
rating. So that's interesting. The maximum stint energy is all over the place compared to last year, so that's going to impact how far cars can run.
Yeah, and I think with
I
the
think it's Cadillac and Porsche. Honestly, looking at it, like I think it's Cadillac and Porsche.
yeah,
Those are
I
gonna be the cars, and Cadillac always runs well at Daytona. So I think that the issues that Wayne Taylor Racing had with their cars just kind of run operationally, I guess. That's been worked through by this point. They're in their second season with the V Series R. They'll be comfortable with it. I think Action Express is very much in it for the win. So yeah, I mean, I think that's
think
kind of
talking about Action Express as well. I think they've, especially last year, they had a really good chance to win that, but just towards the end of the race, just Porsche Penske managed to just do what they normally do when it comes to strategy and just nail it as always. But I think
except Car
that
6 did not nail the strategy. They had the wrong
yeah,
strategy and
I was
lost the
trying not to
race
bring that
because
up,
of it.
but they
Yeah, but no, overall, PPM executes on strategy very well. And the thing with the 24-hour race is you do need to be perfect or as close to perfect as possible on every minor bit of execution, which, like it'll be interesting to see what WRT is able to do with BMW as opposed to what Rahal has done in the past with BMW. Will they be obviously, like, BMW lost the Long Beach race on operational issues.
yeah
Not that the car didn't, but their strategy, their team decision making was not great. They lost that race on that. Honestly, they probably lost Daytona on that too. Had they brought the car in for the nose change as soon as they knew there was a problem, that car was so fast it could have worked back up through the field.
yeah, and I mean, for me, the driver of that race, I mean, the driver of that race for me, from especially BMW as well, was probably, but especially when it comes to pace and just being mighty quick all the way through, I think it was Dries Vanthoor. I mean,
Oh yeah.
he was mighty quick, and I think if it wasn't for the issues that he had towards the end of the race, I think honestly they could have won that race. But it's it's one of it's one of those things. It's just one, especially through as we've seen towards the end of the race, Daytona 24 in previous years. When you when everyone's like bunched up, it just all hell breaks loose, and I think it's just a bit of for Dries as well. I think it was just a bit of desperation on his part, and but I think hopefully if he's quick again and BMW with WRT are quick again this year, I think hopefully he's learned that lesson. But
Yeah.
and I'm looking ahead to LMP2 as well. Obviously, you've got the usual candidates or as well with
Yeah.
the
It'll be
Tower
United,
Motor.
it'll be Tower, it'll be, Era might be in there. They've got a really strong lineup. I think that that's pretty much it.
And then yeah, I agree with that as well. I think United, Era, and Tower will be the ones to look out for. I think Tower last year, I felt so bad for them after having pretty much a faultless race to come away and win that, and then basically have what happened after the race. It was just like, I
Yeah.
mean, I get that rules are rules, but that was like a punch in the gut.
Like it's not like they had a setup issue that
Mm.
caused the excessive wear. They had a component failure that caused the, which I get it. Like IMSA says, well, if you knew you had a component failure, you should have come in and fixed that component failure, and that would have put you however many laps down and you wouldn't have won the race. Like it was really sour the way that happened, but I
Yeah,
think that they will be strong again this year, so that'll be good.
and I
In the
remember after. Go ahead.
I was gonna move on to the GT classes, but if you have more
Yeah, I
about
was going to say. Yeah, go ahead. I'll let you kick off with that if you want and see like your
yeah, I
who you
mean
think who do you think the main or the candidates or the contenders will be in the classes?
I think DXDT has a massive shot. Corvette's fast, and they have a heck of a lineup. I think people will be surprised that Manti doesn't do as well as they're expecting, because it's a very different style of racing. Yes, like a lot of these drivers do have experience. They've done the Rolex before. But it's just operationally, it is a different series for them. It runs very differently. So I think that a lot of people, oh yeah, Manti's gonna win in both classes, and it's like, they could. I mean, it is Manti. Don't put anything past them, but I would be surprised if they do. I mean, my personal teams that I support are Manti in both classes, and then AO in GTD Pro and Wright Motorsports in GTD Normal. So, like, yes, I would love all of the Porsches to do phenomenally. But I think I want to see how BMW do as a brand this year when they're not the only car running an Evo.
Yeah.
They dominated last year, but they were the first car to bring major upgrades, and now everybody else has brought major upgrades. So it'll be interesting to see if they are running away with GT racing as much as they did last year, or if it's a lot closer.
Yeah, and obviously as well with talking about the Evo updates as well, but obviously at the Daytona test, what's Austin was up by as well, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
I think talking about Evos, I think the Ford Mustangs were running Evo updates.
Yep, they're running an Evo update. So they're going to be, I think they'll be very much, I think everybody that is bringing a major Evo update will be very much in it, because they're not bringing an update for no reason, Like,
yeah,
that update, and these are competitive cars to begin with.
Yep. And don't forget as well, last year, I think I wouldn't rule them out anyway, but I mean last year, was it last year or was it the year before? Yeah, I think it was last year. There was one of, I can't remember what number it was. The one GTD Pro with Dennis Olsen, Christopher Mies, and was it Frederick Vavis?
Yes, yeah.
But I would need to double check that because again, I'm so bad at remembering.
I think you're right though.
Yeah,
I'm bad with lineups, but that sounds like the right lineup. Yeah.
I mean, I think looking when it comes to GTD, I mean, I think you've got the usual people as well. You've got Wright Motorsport. You've got who else?
You've got the GTD Ford. You've got
GTD Ford, yeah.
Corvettes. You've got the GTD Corvettes.
I mean,
I think that, kind of like I was saying, like, is BOP the greatest in IMSA? No, it's not. But I think that the racing is there. I think that all of these cars are close enough together without like BOP intervention that it really could be anybody, man. Like, I think that Rexy was going to win that race had that contact not happened. Like, so, and that was the non-Evo 911. So I think the Evo will be faster. So I think that they've got a great shot. It'll be interesting seeing the Grello against Rexy and where longtime Porsche fans fall on which side, which one are you supporting? Because obviously, like, Rexy is a newer car. The Grello's been around for quite some time. Probably one of the most iconic liveries in GT racing. But brand new to IMSA for this year. I expect there will be a lot of fans, but, Rexy has kind of become more iconic in American racing.
Yep, I agree with that.
So,
yeah, I think for GTD Pro as well, if I was to pick not winners as such, because I'm not very good at, or most of the time if I try and pick winners or people are going to do well, they always end up falling by the wayside, and I'm not picking
Yeah.
any winners this year. Actually, I take
Yep.
that back. I did pick a winner last year. For GTD anyway. I put a AWA Racing as one as a winner. Somehow that somehow that actually happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the same with the Aston Martin Racing, AWA Racing, or 13 Motorsport now, as they're now known, since Ori
Yeah.
Fadani took over. I've always had a soft spot for them, and I was happy to see them not just win last year in class, considering they were down in, off the top of my head, they were down in 13th at one point, and then
Mm-hmm.
basically towards the end, they just managed to claw their way up to the front. But
Yeah.
yeah, I would
And
like to
then
see them.
one car, like you're bringing up other Corvettes. Dragon Speed switched from Ferrari to Corvette, and they are a very good team operationally. And with, in my opinion, a better car now with the Corvette, they could very much be in the hunt.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I completely forgot about Dragon Speed as well.
Yeah, I did too.
Changing brands as well to Corvette. What's caught me by surprise, but on the other hand, it's good to see more Corvettes out there. I think as well, it just shows that Corvette as a brand in general, they've got really good customer support, and I think
Yeah.
the support they gave AWA racing, AWA racing last year just proved as well. Basically, when they get the results, it proves that they're probably one of the top brands or manufacturers up there. And I think with the Dragon Speed joining as well, hopefully that just helps them a lot more in terms of customer support, and also
Yeah.
just in general selling more cars as well. So, yeah, I think that's a good thing as well. So I think. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up regarding Daytona?
I think that's pretty much. I mean, I'm excited to go. As of right now, not planning on going to the Roar, just to the race. But we'll be there Wednesday through Sunday, so full weekend experience. Definitely, I will be tweeting about it, posting about it on Instagram, posting about it on TikTok. So that'll all be really fun and exciting.
Yeah, I'll definitely be keeping a lookout, because I know you do. Or I noticed last year you tweeted quite a lot from uh quite a few races anyway. But I remember
Yeah.
you tweeting quite a lot from Kota, because during the whole weekend, and again
Yeah,
again
Coda
that's
Coda was something.
yeah. I mean, again, that's why I like the sports car racing community, because if you're not at a race and there's someone that you know that's at the race, there's always a good chance that they'll post about it. And I know when I make it over to Le Mans, I'm going to spam the absolute hell out of social
Yeah.
media, and I'm well, pretty much not sorry.
And I'm looking forward to it. Don't I hope that no one that ever goes to a race is ashamed about posting that they're at that race. Like, I'm sure that people were really annoyed of how much PPM posting I did at Coda, but I wanted to share my sheer joy that I had. I mean, that was the best race weekend. Like I said, I've been going to races for near 25 years. And that is absolutely, without a doubt, the best race weekend I've ever been at. Just every aspect of it was better than I could have imagined.
Yeah, and as soon as I was watching at the time as well, as soon as I saw Kévin cross the line, I thought, yep. I was like, I'm waiting for it. I checked my phone the next day, and I'm like, yep, there we go. So, but yeah, I mean, you should, like you say, you should never ever be sorry or ashamed for like sharing something that you're passionate about. Say, I'm a passionate Aston Martin fan, have been since 2005, when they entered the the 12, first brought out the DBR9, I think it was, at Sebring back in 2005, and I've just been a
Yeah.
big fan ever since. So, yeah, never be ashamed of the posting what you like or what you're passionate about or whatever
Absolutely.
it is. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. By the looks of it, I have to say again, thank you so much for coming on. I was a bit nervous about asking because
Yeah, no problem.
they just one of those things I don't like to bother people if they're busy or doing other things. So yeah, appreciate your time, and yeah, I hope you have a good time at Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll be posting all about it, and you'll see everything between the group chats and the fact that you follow me online. I am at Nicole on Racing on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Primarily, I do post on Instagram and Twitter. And then my podcast is Orange Flag Pod. It's the Orange Flag Podcast, but Orange Flag Pod on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And then my two co-hosts, same on all platforms. Austin, his is Austin Trackside, and Aries is Aries_Alpenglow. So, just, if you want to give us a follow, we would really appreciate that. The show is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. We do have full video production as well, so check us out.
Yeah, I was going to say make sure to check it out. It's worth a listen, and yeah, probably one of the best podcasts that I listen to as well. But yeah, for my podcast as well. Actually, I feel kind of cheeky doing the same thing now. At the moment, the Satellite Racing podcast is on Spotify at the moment. I am in the middle of trying to make new accounts on Instagram and Twitter as well, and also kind of debating whether to make one on Facebook. Yeah, that's a bit up in the air. Twitter, not Facebook. Instagram is pretty much the main ones I'll probably be posting on as it stands. But yeah, again, thanks for popping on, Nicole.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's glad to have your company as well, and looking forward to checking your social media stuff throughout the season. So yeah, that's it for me and Nicole, and yeah, tune in next time where I have another guest lined up. So yeah, make sure to tune in for that, and yeah, we'll see you later.